Welcome to Therapy Facts with Dr. Jenn. We are talking about getting through the holidays. Point number 2 is a note on grief. Whew. Let me tell you about grief. Grief is a topic that we talk about in therapy all year long. And guess why? Because grief is tricky. Grief shows up predictably and unpredictably. It comes in and out of nowhere. So you can imagine if there is some sadness to be had during the holiday season, grief is not going to allow itself to be left out of the equation. So, with grief being the way it is, tricky, ubiquitous, everywhere, all experiences, in and out of all experiences, we got to talk about it. Grief requires that we take grief on its own terms. We can't rush grief. We can't outrun grief. We can't outwork grief. We cannot outparty grief. We cannot out holiday grief. Grief is not having it. Grief requires that we address it on its own terms. And the way we address grief on its own terms is simply by allowing ourselves to feel the grief. As I always say, if you get one thing out of the videos in this series and on this channel, let yourself cry. Let yourself feel your feelings. The more you allow yourself to feel the feelings of your grief, the more you allow yourself to cry, then in what we call uncomplicated bereavement, the feelings will go into more of a positive space. Your sad feelings about your loved ones, especially, will move into pleasurable thoughts and feelings about their life. Your grief about their death, if you allow yourself to feel the feelings, will move into gratitude, humor, and treasuring all the memories that you had about their lives. If you don't allow yourself to grieve, you probably won't allow yourself to have those sweet memories either. So, as I said before, go ahead and cry. Go ahead and write letters to your loved one. If depending upon your beliefs, talk to your loved ones. Talk to them and let them know how you feel in real time. And again, depending upon your beliefs, you can, deal with whatever their responses might be. So if they're flickering lights on and off, etc., then they've heard you. But in all seriousness, talk out loud, talk in writing, talk to a trusted friend or a relative, but make your feelings, the grief that you're feeling, make those feelings known. Bring those feelings outside of yourself. I always talk to people who have complicated bereavement, where they have been in a pretty low place for more than 2 or 3 years. I talk to them in therapy about perhaps creating some sort of ritual or service in the memory of their loved one so that they can work out their grief. They can actually, as I said, you can't run away from your grief. But if you are working through some sort of project in memory of your loved one as a result, as a way to work through your grief, then that can be a very, very positive experience for yourself as well as for other people who may be the recipient or be involved in the project that you are creating or working through. So think about what kind of project your loved one whom you are grieving would be, their legacy would manifest their legacy, and then work out that project. It could be something small. A lot of people engage in, for example, 3K and 5K walks and runs for cancer, for lupus, and all kinds of for Alzheimer's and all kinds of causes, and they do that every year as a way to pay homage or to keep the memory of their loved one alive. But you don't have to do something as organized as that. You can grow flowers. You can plant a tree in your backyard. You can create a picture collage on a wall in your house. You can do all kinds of things. You can volunteer. If that person loved to go caroling during Christmas time, hey, get with a group, get with a church group and go caroling. If they loved the holiday season, if they love to go to the malls, go sit in the mall and just remember and reminisce about the experiences that you had with that person. But as I said, grief requires that we address it on its own terms. So don't think you're going to outrun grief during the holiday season or ever. It's best to stop and square up and face your grief as realistically and authentically as you can.